All right, ladies and gentlemen. So I promised a guy I would make a video on one-handed weapons. I'm having a bad time in Classic World of Warcraft dungeoning for people who are just terrible. So we're just gonna take a break and make a damn video here really fast. Okay, so I put my Paladin into six-piece Marshal's gear. Let me make sure I'm recording here. Put my Paladin into six-piece Marshal's gear. I am going to swap that trinket out just so we don't have any distractions or interruptions. I could put on my torch. That's an offhand. What are we talking about here? Right. So, this is going to be the gear that you're probably going to be using in Classic World of Warcraft. The Marshal's gear, right? There are really only 3 weapons worth talking about for your gear in Classic World of Warcraft. This Ebon Hand that I have here, she is the best one-handed weapon for fighting mages. Like, unironically, the best one-handed weapon in the entire game for fighting mages. But she's basically dog shit for anything else and is totally not worth the gold. I spent like 1,500 gold on this thing just to test it for the community, and we tested it. She's got like a 3% proc chance on those Shadow Bolts. No spell power ratio. It's terrible. The reason why it's Abyss for fighting mages is it's the only one-handed weapon worth a damn that has both stamina and fire resistance on it, like, period. Yeah, I think it's the only weapon in the game that has both stamina and resists on it, so I keep it around for mages, keep it on my bar for mages. But what you're going to want for your one-handed paladins, you're going to want an Edward the Odd, you're going to want a Hakari Manslayer, you're going to want a Flurry Axe, and then this last spot here will be taken up by some slow one-handed weapon. Since we're probably going rank 14 in Anniversary, this is going to be your 2.9 speed rank 14 weapon, like 100%, just right here. Rather than a Flurry Axe, you could use the rank 14, I think, Quick Blades. The 1.5 Quick Blades are not the worst thing in the world. Whether Flurry Axe is good or not really depends upon how much spell power you have behind your gear. I do believe the current gear that I'm in has like a 300 spell power on it. But this is not the gear you'd be wearing in actual Classic, because there is 3-piece tier. Where you at? Where you at? Yeah, there's 3-piece. Yeah, I guess there's only 2-piece judgment on this thing. What the hell? 6 and 2. Okay, that makes sense. But let's get to it then. What is there to say? Let's start with the Manslayer so we can actually see what our spell power gear looks like. So, Hakari Manslayer has a base 5% chance to proc. It is a ×2 proc chance with Seal of Righteousness. If we're lucky, we'll actually see that. She has a 100% spell power ratio behind her and a 2.0 weapon speed. One of the best one-handers in the entire game for your Paladin. This is like the middle ground weapon between all the options. Like, if I have no idea what the hell I'm fighting, like if you just drop me into a war zone, I have no idea what the hell I'm fighting, I have no idea what class is coming at me, I'm going to be running around with a Hakari Manslayer 100% of the time. Hasn't procced yet, which is insanely unlucky, but it is what it is. When it procs, it's going to do like about 300 damage and healing, give or take. There it is, the 304 damage and healing to the target. The actual weapon itself says that it heals, damages and heals for about 50, but has that 100% spell power ratio behind it. So this is telling me that my gear has about 250 spell power on it currently. All right, get rid of that guy. Cool. So I'm going to go through all the weapons, and then we'll talk about why they're good, if that makes any sense. So this is Edward the Odd. I will actually judge a Crusader on here just so we can see the damage off of her. 1.6 weapon speed. Buy this thing off the auction house. Not that big of a deal. The base proc chance of Edward the Odd is, I think, about, I want to say 2.4% per hit. It does ×2 proc with Seal of Righteousness. So it gives about a 5% chance to proc per hit with Seal of Righteousness. With weapon speeds this high, though, you don't really want to talk about it in terms of... You don't really want to talk about this weapon in terms of how often she procs per hit. You want to talk about it in terms of, like, how many seconds of swing time do I need to put on the enemy mob before I can expect an Edward the Odd proc? And the answer is about 30 seconds. So we've been fighting these mobs for over 40 seconds now. Haven't gotten Edward the Odd proc. Very, very unlucky. Sometimes she's there for you. Sometimes she's not. That's an Edward the Odd proc. You can see I can Holy Light myself. Damn, that was a low roll Holy Light. Instantaneously while the animation is active. The animation is magical, so it can be dispelled if your enemies are quick enough. Nobody is ever quick enough because you're going to learn to be faster. So, for example, it procs, you push the button, boom, just do it immediately. I was about to say, hey, let's wait here and see how quickly I can do it, right? Boom. Yeah, so you're going to basically be trained that the moment you see that crap on you, you're just going to push Holy Light. So that way it can't be dispelled. I never get them dispelled unless I'm literally... I don't notice it active, but then nobody ever does it. You can also spam Holy Lights in between your auto attacks if you really want to try to get it. Now we'll do Flurry Axe. Flurry Axe, okay, so... damn it. So, we'll talk about the axes here really fast, or the weapons in general. So you want a nice, slow one-hander in this slot, basically right here, for wreck bombs, fighting rogues, like, you know, that sort of stuff. Because the faster weapons are not good for Reckoning, right? Flurry Axe is not good for Reckoning. Manslayer is not really all that good for Reckoning. And then, my bad, and Edward the Odd's not all that good for Reckoning. Manslayer's 2.0 speed, that's okay for Reckoning, but it's not great for Reckoning. You're going to want that 2.8 weapon one-hander. You're going to want that 2.9 rank 14 one-hander for your wreck bombs. But really, you're only really using that against like mages and rogues if you're going the one-handed playstyle. What is there to say? Flurry Axe is your highest DPSing one-hander in the entire game, period, end of story. But it really depends on how much spell power you have, is what I used to say. Back when we were using rank 13 weapons, the Flurry Axe would only out DPS the best one-handed weapon in the game, Hungering Cold, out of Naxxramas, if you had more than 500 spell power, which is actually pretty easy to get on your Paladin. But since they changed the Seal of Righteousness to all have the same spell power ratio, it's probably more like 400 spell power is the break-off point for me to say it's the highest DPS one-hander in the entire game. So I'm going to activate a Seal of Righteousness. I'm going to go hit this guy. You can see we're doing 52 damage with my Seal of Righteousness, with my rank 3 Seal of Righteousness. If I activate the current max rank Seal of Righteousness, it should go up by at least about 20 per hit, right? That's pretty significant. But let's judge a Crusader on this guy really fast here, and then we'll use the max rank. Yeah, it's 111. With the max rank, I will stop attacking. I will activate a rank 3, and it's 89 with the rank 3. Okay, so this is a max rank now. Yeah. So there's a pretty significant difference. But the reason why this is the highest one-hand DPS weapon in the game for your Paladin is literally just because, like, what the fuck? It's... Okay, so the weapon's base proc chance is 7.5%. It times 2 procs with SOR to be about 15% chance to hit per attack. But the attacks can also proc additional attacks, like we just saw right there. And the thing just ends up being a blender of DPS. And your PvP rank gear, your PvP suit, damn it, your all stats PvP gear has about 200-ish spell power on it, and then you can easily have like a Libram of Fervor, which I have right here, and so when you judge Crusader into the target, it gives like, you know, plus 200 spell power. It's still, you're gonna have your 400 spell power on the target when you need it with a Flurry Axe. Flurry Axe is just a monstrously hyper DPS monkey. Not good for wreck bombs though. So what do we want to say with... Oh, right. I was going to showcase all the weapons, and I was going to talk about them in, like, their PvP context. So, in situations where you're not really looking for Reckoning, when you're just, like, physically sitting on top of the enemy for long periods of time, you're using Flurry Axe. Like, basically virtually without exception. The only time you would use an Edward the Odd over a Flurry Axe, and we could basically have to showcase this really fast. So, my Holy Lights are healing me on average for about 2,100 HP. If I divide that by the 30 seconds it takes Edward the Odd to proc on average, you can see that Edward the Odd is responsible for like about 70 HPS. If I did the math on like a Judgment of Light, on Judgment of Light with a really fast one-handed weapon, like with Edward the Odd. So if I use my Edward the Odd here, and I run over to this mob, and, oh, that should, I don't know why that's over there. And I do something like this, right? Where I have Judgment of Light on the mob, I have Seal of Righteousness active on me. My bad. The Judgment of Light is healing me for about 20 HPS. I think it's like 19, like mathematically, with a 1.6 speed Edward the Odd. 50% chance that I heal for 61 mana on a 1.6 second swing timer, right? Edward the Odd, even though she didn't proc at all there, it would be healing me for 70 HPS. So the total combination of a Judgment of Light plus an Edward the Odd with Seal of Righteousness is going to do... well, what is it? 90 HPS on average. You factor in the lifesteal procs that are going off all over the place, you have about 100 HPS. So if for some reason I need the Edward the Odd healing in order to physically stay on top of the target, so for example, Warlocks. When I'm fighting Warlocks, I'm going to be using my... where is it at? My bags are super full with random crap from all the videos that we made here. Where's my trinket? Oh my god, my trinkets aren't in order right now. That's terrifying. Huh. I can't find it. Maybe it's in the bank? Weird. It should be on me. It's on me at all times. What the hell are we talking about here? Anyways, can't find it. So I would be using my Mythal Insignia trinket. Mythal Insignia trinket allows me to be immune to fear for 30 seconds. So I can physically sit on top of the Warlock for a good, 40 seconds, give or take. Seriously, where the hell is it? It lets me sit on top of the Warlock for a good 40 seconds. But the Warlock can still physically get me off of them. They can make a distance from me if they just stand their ground and do nothing but cast shadow bolts into me. Yes, Seal of Righteousness will cause ×2 pushback, which is absolutely terrifying, especially if you're swinging like an Edward the Odd or a Flurry Axe at those low 1.6, 1.5 weapon speeds. But they can get lucky on like the Shadow Bolt crits to do enough damage to me in those 40 seconds that I'm beating the crap out of them that I need to stop and Holy Light myself. If I'm forced to stop and Holy Light myself, then the Warlock, I'll pretend this guy is a Warlock here and I'm beating the crap out of them. Okay, Edward the Odd already procced. If I'm forced to stop and heal myself on the Warlock for whatever reason, they just get distance from me and it's really, really bad. So I could use a Flurry Axe for the increased DPS, but really I want to use an Edward the Odd in that fight so that when it does proc, I can just instantly get a nice big fat... for Holy Reckoning, like a nice big fat crit heal into me, and then I can physically sit on top of them. It's one of the things that you have to ask yourself, what the fuck is the value of an Edward the Odd proc here? It's not just the fact that you get to heal yourself instantaneously all of a sudden. It's the fact that you get to sit on top of your opponent, whereas they might have physically gotten away from you for longer than you would feel comfortable with. Putting Frost Oil on these weapons basically does the exact same thing because Frost Oil has spell power ratio behind it. If you're wielding an Edward the Odd, you really want to put a Frost Oil on it. And the reason why that is, and it's kind of the same for a Flurry Axe as well, but the value of a Frost Oil proc is not just the increased damage. Frost Oil will hit for 30 base damage, but then it also has a 28% spell power ratio behind it, so the Frost Oils will hit for about 90 damage, give or take. But it's not really about the damage, it's the fact that it puts a 6-second slow on the target, which means that because there's now a Frost Oil slow proc on the target, you can just immediately Holy Light yourself, the enemy will be running away from you, and then you can easily catch back up with minimal loss in DPS, time on target type deal. But Edward the Odd is absolutely amazing for those situations where you don't want to stop to heal, but you do need to heal yourself. Edward the Odd is your boy. Edward the Odd absolutely fucks over rogues. Rogues hate fighting a paladin that's using an Edward the Odd because they literally just cannot kill a Paladin that has Edward the Odd. They can barely kill a Paladin, like, as is, but if the Edward the Odd procs at all during the course of that extremely long fight, they just can't win anymore. Like period, end of story. So if it's like a serious duel or a Makara, Edward the Odd is absolutely terrifying. You do want to back it up, however, with a Mug of Hurt. Always carry around a Mug of Hurt. Make sure your Mug of Hurt has Icy Weapon enchant on it. We'll go hit a target here really fast. This is another one of the one-handers you definitely, absolutely want to have in your kit. When you whip out the Mug of Hurt, it scares the shit out of druids. There's the Frost, the Icy Chill proc. The Icy Chill proc, I think, is 3% chance. And then it times 2s with Seal of Righteousness. Okay, so there's the Mug of Hurt proc right there. Yep. So, and you'll put like a Frost Oil on this stupid thing. This is a 1.7 weapon speed, so the DPS out of her isn't all that bad if you're using Seal of Righteousness and willing to Judge Crusader on the target. So we'll Judge Crusader. Yeah. Okay, yeah. 115 at 1.7 weapon speeds in this rank 13 gear. You know, not bad at all. What's great okay, so the reason why Mug of Hurt is a thing is because she's 1.7 weapon speed. Okay, all Seal of Righteousness cares about for DPS purposes is how fucking fast your weapon is. She doesn't give a shit about anything else. How much spell power and how much what is your weapon speed? You can put Icy Weapon on this thing for a 6% chance to apply a slow to the target every weapon attack with Seal of Righteousness, and then the base weapon swing has like a 5% chance to apply this 10-second slow to the target. So it's a 10% chance with Seal of Righteousness. And then, of course, if you put Frost Oil on this thing, I can literally go to the Frost Oil vendor so we can actually look at it. I don't have any Frost Oils on my character. Again, all this guy does is sit in the Alterac Mountains these days and wait to make videos, like unironically. Ooh, Discombobulator Rays, hell yeah. Other thing you need on your Paladin, go get the Discombobulator Rays from... I have to go get it on my current Paladin, so I'll go showcase that, make a video for that when I go get it for my engineering on my level 60 Paladin. This is the guy who sells the Frost Oil recipe. There she is. When applied to your weapon, gives a 10% chance casting Frostbolt on the opponent's a rank 3 Frostbolt. It hits lasts 30 minutes. 10% chance, but it times 2s with Seal of Righteousness, so your auto attacks have a 20% chance at 1.7 weapon speed to hit them with that Frostbolt. Okay, so we have Icy Weapon, 6% chance to slow the target per weapon attack. We have our Frost Oil on this thing, which has a 20% chance per weapon attack to slow the target. And then we have the proc on hit effect from this weapon that has a 10% chance to slow the target per attack for a grand total of, like, what is that? Like a 36% chance to slow the target at that point, which is absolutely terrifying. That's not why it's in the bags, though. Despite all of that, that is not why this weapon is in the bags. This weapon is in the bags because this is the only fucking slow in the entire game. This is a physical damaging slow. It's the same as when you get slowed by mobs in the game, and it follows the same mechanics. So druids cannot shapeshift out of this slow. Druids literally cannot get out of this slow unless they, I think maybe PvP Trinket can get them out of a slow. I really don't know. But it would be free action potion or living action potion or get fucked. So this slow is absolutely necessary for even trying to kill a druid, because you have to get lucky with these daze slows, and the Frost Oil slows and the Chilling Weapon slows will also daze the shit out. My bad. Will also slow the crap out of a druid, and if they run out of mana trying to shift the Frost Oil and the Icy Weapon chill slows, because you're not getting lucky getting these daze procs. That's the other way to kill them, right? They run out of mana, they can't get the slows off anymore, it's GG's, or you get a Mug of Hurt slow on them and they can't shift that. Basically, if I get this Mug of Hurt slow on them, so there's the Icy Weapon chill, they would have to shift out of that. Ooh, he crit me, so interesting. Maybe he didn't crit me. Anyways, they can't shift out of this, so that's why it's in the bags. The reason why I talked about it with the rogue is rogues will do this thing where they can't kill you with an Edward the Odd, so what they start trying to do is that they do their gouge stun reset, gouge stun reset, gouge stun reset over and over and over and over and over again. And that's how Esfand got himself killed to a rogue despite having Thunder Fury in one of the dueling tournaments back in the day, which is sad because Drakova coached him, but apparently Drakova didn't tell him to take a mug of hurt, which is kind of weird. Or he did, but he ignored it. If rogues or any class in the game is kiting away and coming back in, kiting away, coming back in, so I would be like rogues or druids specifically, just having a mug of hurt in your bags with icy weapon enchant is going to fuck them in the ass. Especially if you put a frost oil on it, they won't want to have anything to do with you anymore. Because all the rogue needs to do to die at that point is to get a slow on him. And then suddenly he won't get enough distance from the gouge reset anymore. There's other things you can do against rogues, like you can turn your back to them and just refuse to do anything but give them your back. They can't gouge stun you. And you basically just like put consecrations down, refuse to give the rogue your back so they can't gouge stun you. This guy, of course, can stun me. And you basically just kill them with judgments. Eventually your stun will be off cooldown. You can stun them, and then you get some distance. You start putting Hammer of Wraths into them. So they stick around in the duel too long, then you can just give them your back and win that way. But, Jesus Christ, just have a mug of hurt. Just thunk away at them with a mug of hurt. Eventually you'll get that slow on them, and then the rogue is completely fucked. And then the rogue just dies. It says 50% slow, but as you can see here, it's not. Again, it's the exact same slow that guy was almost dead before we got to see the slow. It says 50%, but I swear it's the exact same daze with all the mechanics that you get when you get dazed by a mob. It'll probably even dismount the target when they get dazed by it. Never seen that in action, but, you know, usually just wreck bomb people, or you can... Discombobulate arrays are what you use to dismount people. You hit somebody with discombobulate array, it'll dismount them immediately. So I've never actually had to use a mug of hurt to try to see if it dismounts people. Okay, there's the slow. Let's see how bad it is. Yeah, that is not a 50% slow. Look at that shit. It's like a 70% slow or something like that. Alright, cool. So Edward the Odd. Use that for rogues, warlocks. Also not a big... I also like using Edward the Odd kind of when I'm fighting against priests, as long as I have mana. But Hakari Manslayer is not the worst weapon against priests. Hakari Manslayer is the weapon you use against warriors specifically because the lifesteal will happen. I actually want to get out of here and get back on the other characters so I can talk while I'm flying to... yeah, we'll just log out here. Hakari Manslayer you use against warriors, and it's also really good against rogues and a bunch of other classes as well. She's just a massively good, well-rounded weapon. For your Paladin. The reason for this is, yeah, it's not that great in the Wreck Bomb, but RNG can go well for you in the Wreck Bomb, and those lifesteals can proc significantly more than normal. They can crit. They for plus 50% damage and healing, absolutely terrifying. But against warriors specifically, the healing you get from Edward the Odd is going to be cut in half because of Mortal Strike. And Edward the Odd is also going to parry haste the shit out of the warrior, giving them more rage to work with, and really you want to rage starve a warrior. Whereas Hakari Manslayer, the lifesteal procs off of Hakari Manslayer are... the healing from them is not affected by Mortal Strike. So the healing... it'll heal for... a little by a little bit less than Edward the Odd, but you're not parry hasting the shit out of the warrior. You're getting more value out of reckoning charges, and on top of that, the lifesteal procs actually do pretty noticeable damage against the warrior. So when I'm fighting a warrior with Mortal Strike, you better believe I'm using Hakari Manslayer. Flurry Axe is just the thing you use just for raw DPS. If the situation just calls for raw DPS, like so, if I'm sitting on top of a hunter. If I'm not physically in melee with the hunter, I'm going to be using a two-handed weapon for gathering reckoning charges, or I'll be using my slow one-handed weapon with a shield to gather up a wreck bomb. Once I engage with once I physically make contact with the hunter, I'll put that wreck bomb into them. But you bet your ass I'm immediately swapping to my Flurry Axe, because my Flurry Axe is going to out of a two-hander into a Flurry Axe, out of a slow one-hander into a Flurry Axe, because my Flurry Axe is going to do the most physical DPS to them over time, unless I've already calculated that my two-handed weapon is in fact the better scenario here. If they're chewing on my ass with their pet, they're going to be giving me reckoning charges. That means I want to stay with the two-handed weapon. If the hunter is dumb enough that he's also swinging into me, giving me potentially reckoning charges, I'm going to stick with the two-hander. But if the hunter is doing theoretically everything correctly, which is mean he's not attacking the Reckoning Paladin, he doesn't have his pet attacking the Reckoning Paladin, he's just trying to survive long enough so he can get distance again from the Paladin, we're switching to the Flurry Axe, because it's going to do the most DPS after the Wreck Bomb. Right, so those are your weapons. You want an Edward the Odd, you want a Hakari Manslayer, you want a Flurry Axe, then you want a slow one-handed weapon for trying to kill rogues and other classes out of existence, hunters, yada yada yada. And then the last thing is you want a Mugahurt and of course a good two-handed weapon. Hopefully that's your rank 14 weapon. If it's not your rank 14 weapon, go get yourself a Jeklix out of Zul'Gurub. One of the better two-handed wreck bombing weapons in the entire game. Yes, there are situations where your two-handed weapon is technically better for DPS purposes, but you really kind of want to sit in a shield. Hunter's a really good example of that. It's not really sitting in a shield that does it. It's all the extra things. So you'll notice that on my bars, on my other Paladin, I had... Let's go see it here really fast. Go to Classic Era, go to White Mane. Okay, cool. We'll jump back on the Paladin here really quick. It's interesting what I have on my bars and what I don't, right? So I have my Malistar's Defender, my main shield over here. Then I have a long list of my weapon options. And then I have this Book of the Dead. And the reason why we have Book of the Dead over here is because this is the thing you use against Warlocks in particular. So if you see that if I switch to a Book of the Dead, she's going to take 30 seconds to charge up and basically be viable. But that lines up perfectly with my, what do you call it? Mythal Insignia trinket, right? So when I'm fighting a Warlock, I'll usually be using like a two-handed weapon. Let's get that here really fast. Any two-handed weapon will do. All right, cool. We'll do the Sulfur and Hammer. Why did you not put a Sulfur and Hammer on? Why is it if I click if my bags are that full? Okay, Jesus Christ. Get rid of this. Click Sulfur and Hammer. Thank you. All right, so if I'm fighting a Warlock as like a Holy Reckoning Paladin, usually I will be like, you know, healing a bunch, letting them waste their mana on me, like, you know, keeping my distance, putting Exorcism into their pet. You know, basically just waiting for them to try to kill me, because I don't really want to go in there when they haven't used their trinkets and stuff yet. It's not that I can't just full send it against a Warlock. It's just that why don't I sit back and see if they'll do anything dumb, see if they'll make a mistake, you know, that sort of thing. No sweat off of me. But I'll try to get some Reckoning charges, and then I'll go in on the Warlock with my Wreck Bomb. We'll pretend the Ogre here is a Warlock. You know, hit them, do your Steel Twisting, do your Judgment, but then immediately swap into like my my Edward the Odd and my book over here. And the reason for that, if I was fighting a Warlock, it would look more like this. The reason for this is because my Mythal Insignia lasts 30 seconds. The timer on this book lasts 30 seconds. When this dingus is... But basically, when I'm about to be feared, like what the earliest time period that the Warlock could possibly fear me, I'm going to have the Book of Dead available. And the win condition for a Warlock is I fear the warrior. No, it's literally I fight the warrior till I get bubble, then I fear the warrior, then I run away and I eat and drink. Then I come back in when he doesn't have bubble and I kill him. That's the win condition for a Warlock. If you can stop them from eating and drinking, if you can stop them from quote-unquote resetting, you win as the Paladin. This fucking Skelly pet will allow you to do this. So right before you're about to get feared and you know you're about to get feared, you just summon the skeleton pet. It'll basically not let the Warlock go eat and drink, because now they have to kill this stupid like 4,800 HP summoning pet. You can put blessings on the pet to make it even more nasty for them. All that good stuff. By the time you're out of the fear, you're mounted up. You're running back after the warlock again. Heck, you can heal this stupid pet. The warlock literally can't kill it in time. It's actually kind of amusing. But the Edward the Odd combo and the Book of the Dead combo are literally what causes you to win there. There's a bunch of other offhand weapons, like the medicine pouch, which will heal you for like 1,000 hit points, is an offhand. So you can put a wreck bomb into that hunter and then immediately switch into like a flurry axe and like a medicine pouch. It'll take the medicine pouch like 30 seconds to be viable, same as it did with the Book of the Dead. But there are a bunch of little offhanded items that are totally worth it. The other offhanded item, of course, you can do is you can literally just put a spell power item on your offhand and let Flurry Axe do even more damage. Blah, 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 blah. Other reasons why you want to use a fast one-handed weapon when fighting a hunter, especially if they're attacking you, is because it will parry haste the hunter. Which can be a good thing, because, you'll give you reckoning charges for more flurry hits. Alright, so I'm going to end the video here, and Day is Fault.